The gruesome rape of 8 women, one of which was raped by 10 different men, has cast the spotlight once again on the scourge of rape in South Africa. We're now joined by Lebo Ramafoko, who is a gender activist, to talk about the scourge not only of rape but gender-based violence in South Africa, and try and understand why it is that we are such a violent society, especially towards women. Ma'am, thank you very much for availing yourself this afternoon. So when we talk about this issue, particularly of rape in South Africa, each family, well, it's not maybe every family, but there's most families where you know that uncle, you know that grandfather, you know that father, you know that somebody that is a rapist, whether they've done that to you or whether you know of somebody that they have done that to, that we have let this fester for so long in society, and now we're seeing these instances where it's almost reported, if not on a daily but a weekly basis, should tell us what about ourselves as a society?
Well, I think there is a lot of things that feed into what one will call a rape culture in South Africa. One is the belief that women's bodies are not theirs and women's bodies need to be controlled in certain ways. And the fact that when there is such a belief, therefore we are even can even debate which is the rapeable body, which is not the rapeable body. And we know that what that does is that it puts fear, shame, and stigma on women who experience rape. And when there is fear, shame, and stigma, the majority of women who may have been coerced into having sex, even by those whom they call loved ones, may not even speak out about it because of this, who is rapeable, who is not rapeable. For an example, if you had been drinking, if you had been wearing a miniskirt, you know, you are deemed by society that you are rapeable or you asked for it. We already in the Krugersdorp matter have seen how when stories said perhaps the filming wasn't a music video but an adult movie, perspectives started shifting around sympathy around these women. So it starts there. The second one is really lawlessness. People who rape because they know they can get away with it. And they can get away with it in our criminal justice system. Many activists, many organizations have spoken about the lack of rape test kits in police stations. Many women will not report because they fear the secondary victimization and the way that they will be treated, and the number of dockets and our ability to investigate. But lawlessness tells you that at a community level, and I have listened to many community members who have spoken about many, many acts of crime in South Africa, including gender-based violence and rape, that there is really lack of policing. And policing including doing something about prevention. We have known about these sites. Incidentally, I come from Krugersdorp, although I no longer live there. But I know that the community, you know, has been complaining about these areas. But we almost want to go and visit these sites when an incident has happened. But we are not there to make sure that when communities complain about certain elements of lawlessness, we act on it. And I think we really, really, really need to make sure that we take accountability for the fact that, you know, there is a lot of lawlessness. There's a lot of people with guns, with weapons in their hands that shouldn't be in their hands. And it's just about time. I think when you are a woman in South Africa, you navigate your daily life worried about, are you going to be next? Because it can happen in your home, as we saw with COVID, as we saw with the number of statutory rapes when many children were pregnant, with the statistics that went out, or in this incident where it is strangers who basically rape. It's prevalent.
You cite lawlessness. Is there a case to be made about the socioeconomic conditions that people are facing, where people don't have a purpose about the day? At 9, 10 a.m., you've got a green bottle, a brown bottle in your hand, and some have cited it's mostly men who you see, you know, with this kind of behavior.
You know, I want to be very cautious where we problematize poverty. And, you know, we are not nuanced in that response. because I think while certainly we need to worry as a country with the number of unemployment, with the socio-economic issues that you are talking about, I don't think that every other person that is out there that is unemployed is potentially a rapist. And I want us to be very nuanced in what do we attribute, because I think, for an example, when a certain nationality is caught, we want to simplify it and say it is because of this. I think there are a number of contributory factors, including the fact that we are sitting on a social time bomb with the levels of unemployment, with the plans that we do not have. I mean, I know that there is the social employment fund and people are getting into projects, but I also think that the problem of what you are talking about right now is exacerbated by the idea that there is really no consequences, for rapes. A lot of people have gotten away with raping socially. People have raped and they have really not seen consequences amongst their friends. The opening about having a relative who could do it, and everybody knows that this is how they behave, and they even make excuses to it. But also in the criminal justice system, that only 25% of rape cases are reported. So when you know that you live in a society with the socio-economic conditions that we have, but even if you committed a crime, very little is going to happen for you. I mean, our state of investigating existing cases is very poor. While we celebrate the one case that is investigated well and there is a conviction, many others don't. And that is also what is making people not to report. So it's a multiplicity of reasons that feed into each other. And let me also say, you can't take out patriarchy out of it. Many women have experienced very difficult socio-economic conditions during apartheid. They are the least paid still in South Africa. Poverty has a face and a gender, and it is a black woman in South Africa. You don't see women out on a rampage raping. And so we need to ask ourselves the kind of masculinity that we have in our society that make men, when they are not able to find a job or provide, would resort to violence and to rape. But we also know that even with COVID, we've not attended to the mental health of communities, even if it's just to make sure that people are okay. I'm not excusing it, but I'm saying there are so many services that are needed that are really not creating a conducive environment to deal with the rapes.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for availing yourself this afternoon.